Interim Secretary General at Kejusta. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Joseph Karori is a union official with the Kenya National Union of Teachers in the Nairobi branch. He's here as well this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Good to have you both here. The JSS Autonomy debate is what we'll be talking about, what it means for teachers, schools, and students. We're getting into that this morning. But Dennis Aseto wants to welcome you with today's proverb. We would love to get your interpretation of it as we get into things.
You see, proverbs, we go to different countries, but this week we're doing it a little bit different, eh? So we go to every different country every day. So today we are in Kenya, and this is a quote that came from an enigma of politics, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga the late. Now, don't be afraid of dying. Even if you die and go to hell, there's nothing to worry about, because you'll find your friends there. Paul, how would you interpret that? What do you think Raila Odinga meant?
Okay, I think first of all, I respect the enigma, and for his perspective, I think it was a very universal submission from him, believing that we are not just the physical human beings, but we are twofold human beings who have something eternal within us all. So we should not be afraid of exiting the physical plane, because we can. I think as all believers, we believe that there is eternity in many ways. Yeah, I think that's what I can say with regard to that.
Joseph,
thank you.
Okay, so much respect to the enigma. May his soul rest in peace. In regard to the statement, I think he's trying to give away into the Kenyans and the young people on advocacy, saying that when you decide to fight for a cause, you should not think of the unseen. Like when you talk about hell, you don't know, nobody has been in hell. So he's just advocating for us to be able to fight for a cause without thinking about the unseen. Yes.
Interesting. All right. 2019 was a very interesting year because the education system essentially turned on its axis. And then we saw the first cohorts, as we're calling them, we call them the pilgrims of this particular education system, start grade 3. We've moved along until the same class finally moved and then got to grade 7, which is now when things started to look a bit funny, isn't it? And that junior secondary school, which would comprise of grade 7, 8, and 9, are high schoolers. By all, for all intents and purposes, are in high school, according to the new curriculum and the system. And then 10, 11, and 12 would be senior secondary school, but again, for all intents and purposes, are still high school. Now, for these high school students, they need to be taught by high school teachers, isn't it?
Yes.
But we were told that junior secondary school would be domiciled in primary school. The reasons abound. But that meant that the teachers who teach them would remain in primary school and for all intents and purposes be primary school teachers teaching high school students. Am I right so far? Or would that change a little bit? Let's start off because even as we say that, we're all silent because as we've laid the ground, that's exactly what it is. But there seems to be some uncomfortability about that entire conversation, whereby JSS teachers are now saying, no, we need our own space to be able to do this in terms of autonomy. And that then brings us into the conversation that we'll have this morning. And where is this uncomfortability coming from? Why don't we like it? What's the problem? Let's start off with you, Paul.
Thank you so much for this invitation to clarify on what is bringing questions from JSS teachers. So the secessional paper of 2019 which introduced the CBC, proposed a framework of 2 years in ECD, that is PP1 and PP2, then 6 years in primary school, then 3 years in junior school, and 3 years in senior school, and 3 years in university. And the curriculum, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, as it was developing that curriculum and coming up with even the curriculum of JSS, it thought that this JSS is supposed to be taught by post-primary educators. And the previous regime, the previous government, constructed classrooms for junior school in senior schools because it knew that the resources needed and the expertise needed is supposed to be of post-primary nature. And due to the infrastructural gaps then, is when now this new regime of the President William Ruto thought that through the Presidential Working Party, they recommended that a junior school be domiciled in primary school because of infrastructural gaps then. And but now that will mean that now post-primary teachers will have to be posted to those primary schools where they're domiciled to be able to handle the JSS learners. And as that arrangement happened like that, at the onset, when the JSS was starting, within those primary schools, we had 2 boards of management. There was a board of management for JSS, and there was a board of management for primary school. And it was very important because the Constitution states that each level of each tier of each level of education has to be managed independently. Why? So that the expertise, accountability, and to ensure that learners are handled by people who understand their unique needs. So during that arrangement, it happened that the heads of primary school were given to work in acting capacity for 1 year.
Okay.
And the government was, I was among the first cohort to be posted, the first cohort who was having come from senior school to go and serve those junior schools. So this this transitional measure, as now time has gone by, it wants now to be put into law without having to pass through a parliament. Very many stakeholders distanced themselves from the recommendation of the Working Party, including even the parliament, including even the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers, including the Teacher Service Commission. It said that the Presidential Working Party somehow overstepped on the mandate of the parliament. And right now, we are implementing the system using the recommendations without maybe amending the Educational Act.
But if we can pinpoint the issue, what's the problem exactly? Because here we are saying, again, it may be necessary for us to do, we are saying that for all intents and purposes, these learners are high school students, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to keep them at primary school, domicility in primary schools, and that they must be taught by high school teachers in primary schools. Are we then doing that and degrading teachers? Is that the problem?
It is degrading teachers and also denying the learners to see the sense of progression.
Okay.
Having transitioned from primary school to junior school, they have to see we have moved from one level to another level, and also to ensure that now these learners are given attention based on the level that they have been that they are currently best. Yeah, the JSS learners have unique psychosocial needs.
Okay.
They have unique curriculum needs, because this learner at this level, this is the stage where they're identifying their career pathway. At this stage, by the time they leave junior school, they're living with 3 learning areas. Something that used to happen under the 844. Somebody will choose a career pathway after finishing his high school. But at this moment, under the competence-based curriculum, this learner is choosing at the end of grade 9, the 3rd year in junior school. That's why we are saying that these learners need the attention that they need, separated from primary school learners.
Okay, so Joseph, sorry. Are junior school teachers teaching others? Are they not just for junior school students in school? Because it would appear that from what he's saying, that there would be a mix and that there's no attention that's given just to junior school students?
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me start by talking about the sessional paper that he quoted and say that the current system we're implementing, the sessional paper is not in place. If you check the facts right, it is not in place, and that is what that is being pushed in Parliament. So we jumped into an education system without having a sessional paper. Secondly, the issue of JSS is not in the Education Act. The structure is talking about pre-primary, it's talking about primary, it's talking about secondary. Having said that, the issue of JSS came up, and in the build-up to 2022 elections, there was a lot of uproar from the Wananchi. When the presidential candidates were going around, you could remember people saying of how they are doing homework with the students and all that. So the winner of the presidential election, who is His Excellency Ruto, when he came in, he wanted to address that because it was in his manifesto. And when he came, he first initially came up with the Presidential Working Party and invited all stakeholders, including NAT and KUPPET, to come, and all other stakeholders, so that we have a discussion, a conversation on how we are going to run the JSS. So that was something that is legal, and it came up with recommendations, and one of the recommendations was that the JS to be domiciled in the primary school. And this was based on facts. First of all, it was based on facts. First of all, when you talk about primary schools, we're talking about 35,000. Around in the 2023, there was a survey of the number of schools in primary, public and private, 35,500.
This is including the ghost schools.
Yes,
Okay.
which are very few, to say the truth. When it came to the high school, the number of high schools, they are about 11,000, 10,500 thereabout, according to the 2023 survey. So you could imagine, when you're talking about the 100% transition, it was not possible. The schools that Paul is talking about, you're talking about as one school. For example, the school that I teach is only one school I teach in a high school. Only one school, one classroom. Only one classroom was built. Vis-a-vis the four streams that are coming up from primary. So obviously it could not make sense under the late Magoha, that one classroom that was being built too, the 100% transition was not possible. So when the president came with his team, he saw that the only way that could have been possible is to domicile them in primary. That one is based on infrastructure. Then there are other factors. Look at those students. You're talking about a grade 7 students who is how many years old? Averagely 12, 13 years old. Being domiciled together with a secondary school student at 19 years, 18 years. There are
who are on their way out. The 19-year-old is in Form 4.
Yeah, exactly.
18-year-old.
These are the Parents Association were like, Wajitari, how do you put this 19-year-old, 18-year-old with a 13, 12-year-old boy in the same? It's not making sense. The disparity was not possible. So there were so many factors. And that being said, the students are now in primary school, and the rollout started. The teachers from junior school who are specialized in 2 subjects, they are supposed to be teaching in secondary, they are brought. They are hosted in primary school. They are domiciled there. What's the problem with these teachers teaching in primary school? They are teaching Kenyan learners. They are using the same curriculum from KCD. What's the big issue?
Question.
Yes.
So even as you mentioned about matters to do with the infrastructure that was addressed by the Presidential Working Party. But even then, if you look at the junior school JSS students at that particular time, they're supposed to have laboratories. Primary schools don't have those things.
Exactly.
You know? So if you look back at the decision to domicile JSS in high schools, it's because the infrastructure problem that we are addressing in terms of not just schools, but you look at other facilities that are needed, especially on those who are heading towards science subjects. You know, they would have all these infrastructure in high school. So in terms of domiciling these at primary, fine, we might have addressed the aspect of 100% transition, but we have not addressed the fact that we do not have other infrastructure to support JSS teaching in primary. But then again, there is also the question of JSS teachers are qualified to teach high school. So here's a question where a head teacher in primary school, JSS teachers look at them as not fit enough for them to report to, which is part of the conversation today in terms of seeking autonomy. As the Presidential Working Party was giving their recommendation and everything else, is this that one thing that they focused on, or they did not see that becoming a problem in the future?
Okay, regarding to these teachers in JSS teaching here, one thing that I've said, the gap in the secondary schools was so big. I'm not refuting to the fact that we still had gaps in primary school, but there was a way. The gaps in infrastructure in the primary and in the secondary. So the gap in the secondary was few, because when you talk about the classrooms are enough. Although the government is still adding up because of the numbers that are bulging up. When you talk about laboratories, these are things you can put very fast. Because as we are speaking right now, most of these JSS schools in the primary section have laboratories, 1 or 2. And then Rome was not built in one day. So having assessed the gaps, and the government saw that the gaps are more in secondary, so they domiciled in primary. So it was easy and it was faster to bridge the gap of laboratories and all that.
Joseph, Rome was not built in one day.
Yes.
But here we're talking about an education system for children who ought to have these laboratories from the word go when they start learning. It is unfair and it is wrong to say that we are getting into a system and children getting to learn without prerequisite equipment and facilities that will enable them get into these pathways as expected. Rome was not built in one day, fine. But education of these children, of these students, ought to have been thought from the word go and implementation done right.
Okay, let me answer him
As you
before.
respond to that, because in this country, I personally am tired of talking about systems. Symptoms. It is best we get to the cracks of the matter and understand what is the real problem. Because today you could hold brief for the regime or the position that you assume, but you would personally, as a parent, because we are parents in different ways, you understand that what is happening to your fellow teachers and the pupils and the students is unfair. But my question is this to both of you. At the crafting of the CBC, there was research. We involved educationists, we involved curriculum specialists, so that we could develop a curriculum and shift the country from KCPE to this new system. I would imagine that not only did they focus on the content of what will be taught, but also they focused on the personnel, who are the teachers, and also the infrastructure, where these now various clusters will be domiciled and well facilitated so that the learning can happen. Because we can gamble with anything else, but not education. So where did we miss the mark? Because this cannot be an afterthought, that we don't know where JSS Union
Surely,
is going. Where did we miss the mark?
Okay, one, when I respond to him, when I say Rome was not built in one day, I'm saying to this fact. When we talk about laboratories, that is one issue. When you talk about classrooms, that is one issue. So Dennis, I don't know what you want to mean that they could have gone to high school, they stay under the tree and they have a laboratory. Maybe I don't know if that's the interpretation. Because I started by telling you the classrooms were available in primary schools, but there were other issues like laboratory. I'm not refuting that they were needed. But now, so that I come to your question, you realize that initially, Kenya National Union of Teachers, under the leadership of the SGs, former SG Socio, was against this system initially, not merely opposing, but they were saying, we are not ready. You have said, he's saying we have a session of paper. We don't have a session of paper. So we jumped into a system that we don't have even a session of paper. So we were saying, let us take time, let us build systems, let us prepare ourselves for the years. But through the systems of the day, it came out to be. So when we are speaking about a system that is already with us, and we are looking for a best way in which we can be able to maneuver there.
Paul,
Yes.
where did we miss the mark?
Thank you so much. I'll first of all, before I connect with your question, is saying that we don't have a session of paper. Then if we don't have a session of paper, was the implementation of this curriculum theoretical or was it written somewhere? There was a session of paper of 2019. that proposed the 2633 framework. That's what it was adopted. Several people like Nelson Harvey had gone to even oppose it, but the court upheld it. So this is where we went wrong. On where we went wrong is that the people who now did the research, that now went and introduced the CBC, there are recommendations which they proposed, and that's why they constructed the classrooms in senior secondary school. But now the problem came from politics. You know, politics affects greatly the education system of our country. So it was now politics which now changed the formation. In fact, during the campaign before before the new regime came into power, he says that I think I used to hear President Ruto say, when I raise the Bible and I lower it down, the CBC will be down. So I think the current arrangement is kind of trying to bring down the CBC, to convert this system from 2633 to 2933. That is actually what is happening. And the issue of domiciling in primary, in fact, for us JSS teachers, we settled the matter. We said now, for us, we're not pushing to be taken back to senior school. We are saying domicile should not mean dependency. That's what we are saying. And we recognize the fact that, why we recognize there's infrastructural gaps. Secondly, there's also teacher gaps, because these are teachers who have trained in two learning areas. They have been put in a situation to be managed by people who, in primary school, they teach almost all learning areas. So for them, they might think, for us teaching also all learning areas, it's normal, it's okay. But this level is a level of specialization now, which now there's a huge problem where they are now comfortable. In fact, we have schools where even ECD teachers are going to teach JSS learners. So you ask yourself, while they're doing that, who is attending to the ECD learner?
Why is that happening?
You get the point? Yeah. It is happening because of teacher shortage.
Okay.
And everything that is happening at JSS as attire has been greatly ignored. You are seeing JSS intern teachers are on the streets. They're earning very less, but yet they're even doing more than what even their appointment letter states like. For example, I'm personally trained as a biology and chemistry teacher. But when we started, I was teaching business studies, I was teaching agriculture, I was teaching pre-technical studies. But we're saying that let this JSS be given a post-primary administrator. They will understand the need to even hire learning areas which there is shortage. But most of these primary school teachers, they don't see the need of hiring. They will look within, say, it's okay. We can even have the ECD teacher go and teach there. We can have the primary.
Is there an understanding that and this is why, if you remember at the beginning of this conversation, we had a foundation and we said, JSS, whichever way you look at it, these are high school learners.
Yes.
They have finished primary school. According to this curriculum, which, by the way, yes, the sessional paper 2019 is the one that is guiding reforms in the education sector, and it is what gave CBC life. It exists. It's there. Do we realize that they have finished primary school? That remember that the current the children that are going into Form 3 in January were the ones who sat the last KCPE. That meant anybody coming in after them, once they get to grade 7, they are in high school. They are. So, if we are saying that you can send anybody, if you can send an ECD teacher to capture these learning areas, what we are saying is that an ECD teacher is now teaching high school. But we want to say JSS as though, and to an extent, if we hear what they're saying, we want to say it's JSS. So anybody can go in and teach, and it will be okay. When we get to grade 10, then we can focus. Are we doing a disservice to both the students and the teachers by doing that?
Okay, so if I may respond to that, the issue of ECD, I don't know, I doubt. But when you talk about let me speak kindly. When we speak about the primary school teachers, things have changed. these things are not the way as maybe people still think. Most of these primary school teachers have advanced. They have gone back to school. Some of them
They've been retooled and retrained.
They have been retooled. Most of them are graduates. So the qualification is the same. They have gone back to school. They have done. Others have done masters. Others are even pursuing PhD. So these are teachers who are equally experienced. These JSS teachers have just graduated from university. They have come. We have teachers who have been in the field. They are experienced. They have skills. Even in the previous curriculum, they were able to learn in so many areas. The 844, they did art and craft, they did home science. So they did music. They're able to competently handle these learners. And that's the reason why you've seen, even the Teacher Service Commission and the government, they have seen, they are giving a proposal that they can bring World Bank, they further retool these teachers so that they are able to competently handle the JSS. There's a paradigm shift, because when you look at the group that we have right now handling the JSS, they're handling two subjects, as Paul has said. And you realize there are so many learning areas within. So the primary school teachers have come in handy, and they have competently been able to handle these students.
To cover the gaps that may have been left.
And this is the reason why the government is now shifting, saying, hey, we can use this group. And because we have been having a lot of problems with the JSS, they are not comfortable, they want to be in senior school, there's that. And what I'm saying, and this should be captured very well, it is not the work of the junior school teachers to dictate policy. The policy comes from the Ministry of Education and the government.
So what is
when they have given...
What is the policy then?
What's the policy?
On GSS?
On GSS teachers.
The policy on GSS teachers is that the domiciling is in primary school. And there is an issue to do with the teaching being sent there. But now, instead of teaching, they are making a lot of noise. Now, let me add something. I'm not refuting.
Let's have a GSS teacher
let me finish up, and then he comes in. Finally, I also want to agree to the fact that Paul is saying we have a shortage. We have a shortage in the staffing. And it is due to that shortage that the heads of the primary school have come in to be able to bridge the gap. We have teachers who are qualified. So they cannot sit and wait and say that these learners are going to go unattended. So the gap has been bridged. And I've said, even most of those head of institutions that they are saying that they cannot be able to give authority. They have degrees, they have masters.
I have a very simple question.
Yes.
And I think it will emanate from the training of teachers. Simple. Paul, a primary school teacher is trained to teach how many subjects?
I think he maybe he's been a better side.
Can be able to teach 5.
5.
Yes.
A JSS teacher is specialized to teach how many subjects?
2. Yeah.
So from the word go, when we begin in terms of even teacher training, a primary school teacher, there's no way can teach JSS.
That is supposed to be the case.
And that is based off training from...
And specialization.
Specialization,
yeah.
Cool. So here is a question where we talk about teachers being allowed from primary school to teach high school because they have gone back to school and they have gotten their degrees and even their masters. But from the word go, when it comes to teacher training and where one is supposed to train, it is clear on how that is supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
You are a chemistry and a biology teacher. That is your specialization. Do you have a report of teachers of your caliber who teach in JSS and do not have laboratories? If you have that information, just say.
Yes.
Yeah. That means the current JSS students who are supposed to go through these pathways in science, there are those who have gone through the system without having the requisite infrastructure that needs them and that would make them qualify for what it is they need to do.
Absolutely.
That means even when you try to speak about infrastructure, we failed from the word go.
Exactly.
Yet these are things that when it comes to education ought to have been thought about from the word go and ensure that these students get the very best.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, what was your question?
So what is the policy? What's the understanding of the operating policy regarding the GSS?
Yeah, so in fact, on that policy, I will also use that one to respond to his submission.
Kindly.
That primary school teachers have masters, have PhD, and are qualified to teach by virtue of that. very many people in this country have PhDs and masters. It does not mean that if you have a master's or PhD, you are qualified to go and teach at a certain level. Yeah. So the TSC came up with qualifications for somebody to be deployed to JSS. There were things that they were looking at. There are people, for example, who have a degree in a degree or a master's in ECD. Does not mean that if you have a master's degree, you have now qualified to become a post-primary teacher. That's what is happening. That's what the argument is. And the deployment, TSC came up, they gave the minimum two learning area. You have to meet this one. Then you have to have gone back to school to be upgraded, to be trained as a post-primary teacher, not looking at the qualification you're going to look or the degree that you're going to acquire. And TSC have been deploying teachers from primary based on that. But because of the push, NAT union is very good when it comes to politicking. You remember even what happens to status when the issue was being discussed, was being laid forward by the Secretary General of Kupet. They made noise so that the truth does not come out clearly. So this issue of the policy itself, we are asking, first of all, maybe I can ask my counterpart here to explain what is the interest of the primary school. What interest does primary school have over JSS? Why is it interested in the other level? It's like now junior school to be interested in matters of senior school. What is making it? What is making them hard to recognize that the 3 in JSS is a post-primary tier? It is after the learner has left primary. That's why even uniforms are different.
Can I ask a different question that perhaps can fuel that? Are there benefits that junior school teachers should have, even if they're domiciled in primary school, that maybe somebody will be uncomfortable with them having?
When you talk about benefits, I think he should be able to give that direction because he's coming from Kejusta. But if I can be able to answer on the issue of interest, I want to bring it to your attention that the issue of JSS started with them being domiciled in secondary school under Professor Magoha, and I agree to that. Then there was a conversation, and there was a conversation by the Presidential Working Party. Stakeholders were there. Everyone was invited. Even Kupet was invited, and they didn't attend. They came to catch up later. We went as NAT, we tabled our reason as to why they should be domiciled in primary schools.
Which is what?
And eventually...
Sorry, what's that reason?
Why they should be domiciled in primary school.
Apart from that, children of different ages.
We have already discussed that. We are repeating the issue of infrastructure, the issue of the students, the differences in terms of years. There was that came from the Parents Association.
But isn't the real reason the unionization?
That's why I'm asking. What's the reason?
Then there's also the issue of union. Now, when it comes to that fact, I want us to understand. First, they were in secondary school, but based on NAT proposal, based on other stakeholders, because NATO is not the only one that gave proposal, there was a unanimous decision, and the report was given that these students now should be able to go back to primary school. And I've given reasons as to why.
Yes.
After going there, now you listen about Kupet. They have tried very much to bring these members back to secondary. After failing to be able to to bring the narrative, they have now decided, no, it's not now an issue to take back to secondary. I think that is water under the bridge. Now we want autonomy. Because even when you're pushing about autonomy, these JSS teachers, there's someone behind it. And the someone is Kupet.
Let me ask a question,
leadership, because they're interested in membership.
Because you mentioned Kupet. If the JSS teachers remain in primary school, which union will they belong to? And if they go to autonomy or to the secondary school, which union will they belong to?
When it comes to the issue of membership, as you're speaking right now, that was I was telling about the sessional paper. The structure and the different levels are dictated by the Education Act. That is something that is subject in the discussion in Parliament. When we went to State House the other day, and I was present, it was addressed by the President. In fact, he said within 45 days, the chair of the Education Committee, Honorable Meli, was told to fast track. So when I was speaking about the session of paper, I was meaning exactly that. The Education Act that you're speaking about currently is not clear on where JSS lies. So that is a fight that is continuing. Even as you're speaking right now, in JS, we still have groups of teachers who are in NAT, and we have some who are in Kupet. So it's a status to do with membership.
Paul, let me ask this question, Paul. JSS is post-primary education, right?
Yes,
that
it
means it is high school.
Yeah, it's not Kupet. It's not primary.
It's not primary.
No.
Let me answer you. When we speak about secondary, the proposal of the Presidential Working Party was that they are going to be called junior school. And there was a proposal of something that was called comprehensive schools. Comprehensive school means there was going to be a complete system up to grade 9. When we argued in that fact, that means this comprehensive school will be under NAT.
The
And
conversation
that's where the
what
conversation is having.
The conversation is what is, and he's talking about what is the situation right
Yes,
now.
right now.
Yes.
My question is, JSS as is right now is post-primary education.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. That means when it comes to union, we know. We don't need to say it.
So the teachers who teach JSS essentially are no longer Kupet.
Kupet.
They are but we're Kupet members. JSS. In fact, we're paying union dues to Kupet because we are post-primary.
Post-primary.
educators.
Okay.
Yes,
So you
now
actually
now
the
they
teachers,
push-
the teachers in
yeah,
JSS
yeah.
are actually Kupet teachers.
They are Kupet teachers.
We still have
Yeah.
junior school teachers who are not.
Yes, those ones, and that's why I was saying that there was the issue of deployment. Yes, there are teachers from primary school who are deployed best because they went and advanced to become post-primary teachers. And as I'm speaking, most of these deployed teachers, they will be leaving NAT also. They will be joining our post-primary union. And I want to add something on what is interesting,
Yes.
what is making primary to say that GSS must be under us. It's like at some point your child wakes up and tell you, now, my dad, you are going to be under me. Because there has to be that rank. There's a level. It's like now, will it be fair for us to say, is primary school to be under ECD? Will it be fair to say that? Because at the moment, ECD is under the county government, primary under the head teacher. JSS should be under a principal.
Principals, yes.
And by the way, this thing, as they are pushing for comprehensive school, they are pushing as we have had my counterpart, they're pushing because when they win the issue of comprehensive school, then they will be pushing for JSS teachers to be union members of NAT. That is basically what they are pushing for. Number one, interest. Interest number two is about the, and I'm sorry to say this, it's about capitation. It's about money. It's about money that is going in JSS. That's what is bringing issues there. That's what is making them. Why should somebody be concerned with a different type? You know that you're a primary school educator. Why are you concerned with the next level? Then there must be something that is making you interested. But for us as JSS teachers, what is interesting us, because we are also parents, we have young ones, we want to have a system where we are confident of taking my child to that school, knowing that that learner is going to be handled in a proper manner. I don't want to, my child reaches junior school, I don't want to take them to academy. But if the current situation continues like the way it is, even us as JSS teachers in this country will not have confidence in enrolling our children in JSS institutions.
Which brings me to the question. As this push and pull continues, you know, we have children in school.
Correct.
We have parents who hope that these children will go through an education system and they will get out being individuals who are able to stand for themselves and be able to be proud of an education system that gave them power to read. As this push and pull continues, the person who is suffering the most
The child.
is the child. Do we ever sit and care or just pause and think of the quality of education and our role as educationists, both of you, right? Your role in ensuring that this education needs to be proper. whether I belong to Kupet, I belong to NAT, that education of our children is front and center. Do we ever think about it?
Yeah, that one is always a factor when talk about NAT. And when we speak of quality, that's the reason I'm saying we are having teachers being retooled to be able to support these learners. And when we saw gaps, we could not sit and say that there are 4 learning areas that are not being taught. The teachers could come in handy. I also want to respond to my colleague from the sister union on the issue of membership. I want to bring it to your attention that NAT is the mother union. And one of the functions of NAT is to unite teachers across all grades. So for Kupet, it deals with post-primary only. But Kenya National Union of Teachers, objective number 1 and function is bring teachers together across all grades. So when you talk about representation, they represent, majority of the teachers are in primary, but they also have members who are in secondary. Myself, I teach in a high school, but I'm a NAT member. So we still have teachers in secondary and in junior school and in primary section because the constitution allows, it's open. But for Kupet is only a section, post-primary. So when you talk about members, I wanted to clear that issue.
You mentioned capitation. What do you have to say about that?
It's obvious, and I don't want the fact that we are pushing because of capitation and membership. Because what we are dealing with something that was given as a proposal from the Presidential Working Party. So when we are coming here, we're having a conversation, we're having a conversation as us based on what? Because the current implementation is based on the Presidential Working Party. And that's the reason why you're finding these recommendations have been implemented. Partly, there are discussions going on in Parliament about the sessional paper and an Education Act, because the current Education Act that we have of 2013 does not capture JSS. So I started by saying NAT was opposed to this thing, but because of the powers, the thing was implemented. And you know there are teachers who are interdicted from members of NAT because of opposing. It is in public. But now when it came, as NAT now, it has been forced onto the Kenyan system. Now we have to live by it. So as we move by, we have this proposal from the Presidential Working Party. So we are working with it. So we Joseph, are anchored on something.
So Joseph, the thing about stakeholder progression and participation is that you don't deal with statues. You're dealing with human beings who along the line, if you see that something is going to cause a bump along the road, then you can actually have conversations around them. You make it seem as though because the Presidential Working Party made proposals that they are now cast in stone, and it is those proposals then that must be the reality. Because when you get into the system, you see that certain things may not work. Are you saying there's no possibility to have conversations towards an implementation of something that would change when you're faced with the reality of a situation? Would that not come into play?
The conversation is there and it has been continuous, but the conversation may not be dictated from one side.
My question is it not possible to have conversations around a different form of implementation once you realize the reality of the times?
It is possible, but according to me, the current reality is that JSS has been a success under the leadership of the primary administration. It has been a success. They are able now to transit to the next level. The gaps that are there will continue to being addressed. More teachers are being sent. And the case of the JSS teachers being domiciled there, there is that issue of them being under the structure that is being pushed of comprehensive school. If it comes to place, then they won't be having any issue of not being there, because they are trying to dictate something that they are not supposed to be able to dictate. Because
but Paul, who is a JSS teacher himself, does not agree with that statement.
Thank you. In fact, I was very happy when he said that he's not teaching JSS. So he does not understand where the wearers of the shoe. And we know, and I'm not surprised when he says that he's not teaching JSS. And he's saying that the head teachers ran JSS successful. But he was not there to see. We are there, we are living the reality. And And I want also to touch on something that he said, that JSS teachers graduated the other day. I don't know from what facts he's laying from. This is my 10th year of teaching, post-primary educator. And there are very many teachers who within JSS who graduated a very long time ago. And you know that how employment of teachers works. The government used to employ only 5,000 teachers per year. So many teachers were working in private institutions, in board of management. So these teachers have experience. And I don't know which part of the law says that somebody is too young to become a leader. I know very many companies, multi-billion companies with very young leaders, and they're doing well. And this system, the conversation can we change maybe the things that are not fitting? Yes, we can do that. And as JSS teachers, we are the curriculum implementers, and we have a say in the curriculum because we are the people who are going to implement it. So if we say there's a problem somewhere, it's because we have seen that in this implementation there's something that is not okay.
Even as you say that, because the time just comes, it might come as a surprise to many, but without the children and the learners in all of this, nobody, JSS, Ken, Kupet, Nat, nobody would be here. The primary stakeholders in all of this are these learners. Everybody else are adjunct. So should that not be the focus in all of this? That how are we going to deliver an education which is not sub, but optimal? Because these fights, somebody's saying they are not there, others are saying we should, we shouldn't. But this child then is somehow floating through, like the ones who are going to grade 10. May God have mercy. Because the way they've been handled from grade 3 to now going to grade 10 in January 2026, it's these things that have brought about what unfortunately is a substandard in the delivery of their education. That is the truth. So how are we going to get to a point where we're able to drop all of these things, have real meaningful conversations that don't matter about membership or capitation, but that matter about the education of these children? That should be our true north. How do we get there? In a minute each.
Okay. First, I want to say that the current structure that is happening is not new. We have had the A-level, where we had the Form 5 and 6 still together with the rest of the system, and it was being run by the principal. So this thing is not new, and it is possible. We have seen it work previously, and you can be able to have it done. When you talk about the learner, the focus on the learner, we say that we have gaps. As NAT, we agree we have gaps. We have gaps even in terms of issues to do with laboratories and all those other factors, but these are gaps that are being addressed continuously. So we want to encourage the government to be able to employ more teachers so that they can be able to address these issues. At the same time, we still hold the fact that the teachers that we have in the primary section are competent enough to be able to handle that. So the issue of World Bank sponsoring the teachers, it's welcome on our side, so that we're able to assist the learners and be able to upgrade their learning areas and achieve it.
Yeah. So for me, as and for me, and on behalf of my fellow JSS teachers, as responsible educators who mean well for this education system, we have taken necessary steps to make sure that the abnormality that is there is corrected in this sense. The discussion in Parliament, we are the one who took it there through different members of Parliament. We have also filed a High Court petition to prove that the best interests of the child are being ignored. And that the needs of the child should be met. So we have petitioned Parliament, we have petitioned High Court, and we are waiting also for the interpretation. How do they view this matter? And we will go with what the High Court will proclaim itself on this matter. We have sought interpretation for the best interest of the child.
All right.
Yeah.
It is a thorny conversation. It still needs to happen. And I keep insisting, I think we all do, that education delivered to the children has to be optimal. This This is not it. It doesn't work like this. So let's continue talking. Let's continue engaging, but we've got to get somewhere, and we've got to get there quick. Paul Wahungu is the Interim Secretary General of the Kenya Junior Schools Teachers Association. Joseph Karori is the union official with NUT Nairobi branch. Thank you, both of you, for being here this morning.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
2
you.
minutes past 9. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.